I'm telling you, I doubt this joke of a marriage is going to survive another year. She's nowhere near my level anymore. That was my husband, Sean. His voice, slick with that fake charm, carried right through the expensive French doors to the patio, and I just froze. I was standing there holding a heavy-ass tray of dry-aged ribeyes, steaks I'd bought, steaks I'd marinated, steaks I was about to grill for his Thursday night get-together. Through the glass, I could see them. His crew, George, Denzel, and Michelle. They were all raising their glasses, laughing, congratulating him. They were sitting on my outdoor furniture, drinking a $2,000 bottle of Screaming Eagle from my wine collection. In the backyard of the house I paid for, toasting my husband's announcement that I was beneath him. George actually stood up, clapped Sean on the back, and said something about how he deserved better. My hands were steady when I set that tray down. I don't know how. Every cell in my body was vibrating with a rage I didn't even know I was capable of. They hadn't seen me. I was hidden by the pillar. For 30 seconds, I just watched. I watched my husband, the man I built a life with, soak up their praise for planning to ditch me. I watched him glow with pride as his buddies validated his contempt for the woman who'd built every single thing around them. Before we get into the takedown, and trust me, it's coming, I have to ask, do you think loyalty is just dead? If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, someone you would have taken a bullet for, hit that subscribe button right now. It's free, and it tells the algorithm that we don't stand for snakes. And hey, if you're not subscribing, maybe jump in the comments and let us know why you're cool with what Sean's doing. We're waiting. Now, let's get back to it. The steaks were just sitting there, sizzling, while I stood motionless. Inside, Denzel was refilling everyone's glass with the exact bottle I'd been saving for our anniversary next month. Michelle had his feet kicked up on the custom-ordered Italian ottoman I'd bought when I renovated the patio. They looked so comfortable, so at home in the life I built, while they celebrated Sean's decision to destroy me. "So how long you been feeling this way, man?" George asked. He leaned in, thirsty for the gossip. "Months," Sean replied. He swirled his wine with that practiced motion, the one he learned from YouTube videos because he has zero actual class. Ever since Jane landed the Morrison Industries account, she acts like she single-handedly saved the company. The ego on her, it's just unbearable. The Morrison Industries account. The account I pitched alone while Sean was at a golf tournament in Palm Springs. The one that took 17 meetings, 3 full redesigns, and a complete restructure of our services to land. The account that was, at that very moment, generating 40% of our entire company's revenue, the one that was the only reason 3 other Fortune 500 companies had signed with us. "Bro, you built that company from nothing," Michelle said, his voice full of that bro confidence, having never seen a single financial report in his life. She just got lucky with a few good quarters. And I watched Sean just nod. He accepted this total rewrite of history like it was gospel. As if he wasn't crashing on his buddy's couch, flat broke when we met. As if I hadn't been the one running a killer freelance design op that I single-handedly grew into a full-blown agency, all while he was ideating. Oh, the ideas. Let's talk about those. Remember the revolutionary crypto trading bot? It's a sure thing, Jane. We're gonna be rich. 60K gone, poof, just vaporized into the digital ether. Then the artisanal farm-to-table meal kit service. He spent 6 months designing logos and building a brand voice, but never signed a single farmer, never shipped a single box. That was another 40K down the drain. And my personal favorite? The disruptive meditation app. He was gonna disrupt mindfulness, guys. Never mind that Headspace and Calm own the entire market, or that YouTube has millions of free videos. That was another 30K of my money, of savings I built, sunk into a project he got bored with after 3 weeks. Each failure, he'd promise, "This next one, babe, this is the one. You just gotta trust my vision." Denzel got up to grab another bottle from the outdoor wine fridge I had installed. "You need someone who appreciates what you bring to the table, Sean. Someone who understands that being a visionary isn't about the day-to-day grunt work. Being a visionary." That's what he called himself. He'd corner people at parties, talking about disrupting industries while I was back at the office closing deals, managing our staff, and taking client calls at midnight. He'd pontificate about leadership philosophy while I led. He'd talk about strategy while I strategized. He'd talk about success while I succeeded. "Jane's just changed," Sean continued, and his voice took on this wounded, practiced tone. She used to support my dreams. Now she just throws numbers in my face. Revenue this, profit margins that. She doesn't get that business is about more than spreadsheets. George let out a bark of a laugh. Sounds like she's become one of those corporate drones. No vision, man, just execution. Just execution. The execution that had taken us from a home office to a penthouse suite in Midtown with 23 employees. The execution that meant Sean could drive his BMW, wear his designer suits, play golf at the country club, and host these Thursday night hangouts where he could talk trash about how far beneath him I'd fallen. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Ashley, our senior developer. Morrison Industries loves the new campaign proposal. They're ready to sign the expansion contract tomorrow. You did it again. Tomorrow. I had the biggest meeting of our company's history tomorrow. A contract that would double our revenue. And here was my husband, my business partner, telling his friends our marriage was a joke. The thing is, Sean said, pouring his fourth glass, I've been documenting everything. Every time she makes a decision without consulting me, every time she undermines my authority with the staff. My lawyer says I have a strong case for taking at least half the company, maybe more. His lawyer, Rick Paulson, from the country club, the one he told me was just a racquetball buddy. They'd been meeting, planning to divide the assets I was building while I was building them. Smart, man, Denzel said, raising his glass again. Get your ducks in a row before she knows what hit her. Sean just beamed, his confidence jacked up on my wine and their validation. Oh, she won't see it coming. Jane thinks she's so smart with her presentations and her contracts, but she has no idea. She doesn't understand the real game being played here. The real game. The game where he was planning my financial ruin while sleeping in my bed, eating my food, and living off my success. The game where he'd convinced himself and these idiots that I was the lucky one. I picked up the tray of steaks. They were cold now. I looked at them. These 4 men who'd eaten at my table dozens of times, celebrated holidays in my home, all while believing I was beneath their friends' level. It all made sense now. The Thursday nights, they weren't poker games or strategy sessions. They were planning meetings for my humiliation. I pushed open the French doors, the tray still in my hands. 4 heads snapped toward me. Their laughter died instantly. Sean's crystal tumbler stopped halfway to his lips. The silence was so total I could hear the neighbor's pool filter humming 3 yards over. Jane, Sean's voice cracked. He went from a confident CEO to a caught teenager in one syllable. We were just... Why wait a year? I set the tray down. My voice was calm, ice cold. The same voice I used to fire underperforming vendors. Let's end it today. I wouldn't want you to have to endure another 12 months married to someone so far beneath your level. George's face went white. Denzel suddenly found his phone screen fascinating. Michelle actually stumbled backward, almost knocking over a citronella candle. But Sean, my husband of 12 years, just stared. His mouth hung open. For the first time in his life, the man had nothing to say. I turned. I walked back through the doors, leaving them frozen out there on my patio. My footsteps on the hardwood floors echoed through the house. I went straight to our bedroom. Behind me, I heard the panic, frantic whispers, chairs scraping on concrete. In the master closet, I pulled out my Toomey luggage. The big one. I laid it on the bed we'd shared for 5 years. My hands moved fast, surgical. I packed the blazers I wore to the meetings Sean skipped. The jewelry I'd bought myself after each major milestone. The designer bags that represented bonuses he claimed were our success when he'd contributed nothing. From the bathroom, I grabbed my skincare. The expensive stuff. Taking care of myself was one of the few things I could control. I grabbed my prescriptions, the sleeping pills I'd been needing more and more as his Thursday nights got longer and louder. I heard them coming up the stairs, multiple sets of feet, hesitant. Jane, please, can we just talk about this? Sean appeared in the doorway. His hair was all messed up from him running his hands through it. Behind him, I could see George just hovering. There's nothing to talk about. I zipped my toiletry bag. You've made your position clear. I'm beneath you. Our marriage is a joke. You've been meeting with Rick Paulson about a divorce. What exactly is there to discuss? The color drained from his face when I said the lawyer's name. How did you know about Rick? I pulled my laptop bag from the closet, the one with every password, every client contact, every piece of intellectual property I had ever developed. The same way I know about the separate bank account you opened in January. The same way I know you've been telling potential investors that I'm emotionally unstable and hurting the company. George stepped into the light behind Sean, and something about his expression, the guilt, it wasn't just about tonight. It was older. It clicked. "It was you," I said, looking right at George. "You sent me that anonymous message an hour ago. Check your husband's Thursday night meetings. You need to know what he's saying about you." Sean spun around to face his best friend, his face twisted. You warned her?" George straightened his shoulders. For the first time, he looked like an adult, not just some frat boy. "I've been sending her screenshots for 3 weeks, Sean. Every message in our group chat where you talked about hiding assets, every discussion about Project Gaslight, every time you bragged about how you were going to take half of what Jane built and paint her as the villain. I just can't. Project Gaslight. They gave it a name. They frickin' branded his plan to destroy her. This is next-level evil. If you think Jane deserves to take this guy for every single penny he doesn't have, you need to be subscribed to this channel. Don't even think about it, just click the button. Honestly, not subscribing at this point is like siding with Sean. You don't want that on your conscience, do you? Project Gaslight. I let out a laugh, but there was no humor in it. You actually named it. Like you're some kind of black ops team and not just a bunch of pathetic men plotting to destroy your wife. Denzel and Michelle had crept up the stairs. They just stood there, useless. Their earlier bravado was completely gone. The Thursday nights, George continued, they were never about poker. They were planning sessions. Sean would tell us his latest strategy for documenting your instability, taking pictures of you working late to prove you were neglecting the marriage, recording your conversations out of context, building a case that you were the problem. I folded my last dress, the red one, the one I wore when Sean gave a big speech at the Christmas party about partnership, when I knew for a fact he hadn't contributed a single dollar to our quarterly numbers. And you all just went along with it, I said, facing them. You thought, what? That it was funny? That I deserved it? That I deserved to be destroyed because I had the audacity to be more successful than him? Silence. Just heavy, suffocating silence. Sean's hands were clenched. He was searching for a way to spin this, but we both knew. You can't unsay what I heard. You can't undo 3 months of planning. You can't take back, she's nowhere near my level. Not when the evidence of whose level was, whose was all around us, in the house I bought with the money I earned. I zipped the to me. I walked right past him. I closed the bedroom door with a soft click. It was louder than any slam could have been. As I walked past the gallery wall of our wedding photos, I could hear the shouting start. Sean, turning all his fury on George, the friend who'd finally grown a conscience. The elevator ride down to the lobby felt like it took an hour. I wasn't just leaving a house. I was leaving the version of myself who thought love meant making myself smaller. The woman who minimized her own wins to protect a fragile male ego. The JW Marriott in Midtown was lit up against the night sky. I walked through that lobby, back straight, head high. I refused to look like a woman fleeing her own life. The clerk at the desk didn't ask a single question when I requested an executive suite for a week, paying with the Amex Black card Sean didn't even know existed. My emergency fund. My fuck-off fund, built from bonuses I never told him about, because I learned a long time ago that financial independence is oxygen. The suite was on the 23rd floor, overlooking the business district, where in just a few hours, I'd have to walk into that Morrison Industries meeting and pretend my life hadn't just imploded. The room was sterile, perfect, no memories, no ghosts. My phone had been blowing up, non-stop. First, the anger. You're being dramatic. Get back here now. Then, the manipulation. You misunderstood everything. We need to talk. The fake apology. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. And finally, the threats. You're destroying our company with this stunt. The investors will pull out. I set the phone on the marble counter and turned on the shower. Hot. Steaming. I stood under that rainfall shower head, and I finally let it hit me. 12 years. I'd spent 12 years with a man who was secretly building a case against me, gathering evidence for a war I didn't even know we were fighting. The tears came. I sobbed. I let out all of it. The betrayal, the humiliation, the shame at not seeing it sooner, all those nights I'd prepped food for his poker games, All those mornings I'd kissed him goodbye, all those meetings where he stood next to me and took credit for my work. I'd been the only person in the theater who didn't know how the play ended. She's alone, in a 5-star hotel, and her entire life just imploded. This is the moment a story either ends or a comeback begins. And we only tell comeback stories here. If you are here for the comeback, prove it. Hit subscribe. It takes 1 second. If you're still watching this far in and haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Are you just here to watch her suffer? Go to the comments and explain yourself. I'm genuinely curious. By the time I got out, the sun was long gone. The city lights looked manageable. I ordered room service. Salmon, not steak. A glass of Pinot Grigio, not bourbon. And a chocolate lava cake. Because Sean had always called dessert unnecessary calories. And I'd forgotten what it felt like to be unnecessary. I called my lawyer, Ms. Hayes. She answered on the second ring. It was past 9 p.m. "I've been expecting to hear from you, Jane," she said. Her voice was all business. "George Blackstone already sent me an overview of the situation." That stopped me. "George contacted you?" 2 hours ago. He's prepared to provide a sworn testimony about Sean's financial manipulation and the conspiracy to manufacture evidence of your instability. Can you be at my office at 8 a.m.? Bring everything. I spent the next 3 hours organizing my entire life on my laptop. Folder, Sean's failed ventures. Every dollar I'd invested in his pipe dreams. The $60K crypto bot. The $40K meal kits. Folder, company contributions. Every contract I'd negotiated. Every client I'd landed. Folder, financial manipulation. This one was new. At midnight, there was a knock. It was George, standing in the hallway holding 3 heavy banker's boxes. His usual swagger was gone. He just looked ashamed. "I'm sorry, Jane," he said. "I know that doesn't fix it, but watching him poison everyone against you while you were literally keeping the lights on, it's been eating me alive for months." "Then why, George? Why did you go along with it for so long?" He sank into an armchair. "At first, I thought he was just venting, guys talking trash, but then it got dark. He started taking notes on your calls, screenshotting your texts out of context. He built this whole narrative where you were the villain. And we let him." I opened the first box, manila folders, in Sean's handwriting. Financial discrepancies, emotional instability, evidence, asset documentation. Inside were my emails, normal business emails. But he'd annotated them. An email about me working late became proof of marital abandonment. A request for him to review a contract became controlling behavior. "This goes back to January," I said, holding up a folder. "He's been planning this all year." George nodded. "Right after you landed that Samsung contract, that's when he really turned. Before that, he could pretend you were equals. But that deal, it made it obvious who was really running the show. His ego just couldn't handle it." The second box was worse. Photographs. Pictures of me, at my desk at 10 p.m., taken through my office window. Screenshots of my LinkedIn posts, annotated with comments about my narcissistic need for attention. Photos from my sister's birthday dinner, where my 2 glasses of wine were circled as evidence of a drinking problem. "He asked us to collaborate," George whispered. "Denzel was supposed to report if he saw you at lunch with any male clients. Michelle tracked your social media. I was supposed to monitor your relationship with the staff, looking for inappropriate boundaries." The third box was the kill shot. Financial records. Sean had been setting up a shadow company, an LLC registered in Delaware. He was already approaching our clients. The name? Morrison Strategic Solutions. Our company was Morrison Digital Innovations. Close enough to confuse everyone. My phone buzzed. A text from Ashley, my developer. "Emergency. Sean just sent an all-staff email claiming you're having a mental health crisis and he's taking temporary control of all operations. What do I do?" I showed George the text. His face went pale. "He's escalating." I called Ms. Hayes, put her on speaker. "He just sent a company-wide email claiming I'm having a mental health crisis." "Forward it to me, immediately," she snapped. "I'm filing an emergency injunction right now. This is defamation and fraud. George, are you there?" "Yes, ma'am. I need everything you have on Project Gaslight. Now. Jane, do not respond to that email. Do not contact your staff. Let me handle this." At 2 a.m., George finally asked, "Do you hate me for not speaking up sooner?" I was done with polite lies. I don't know what I feel about you, George. You watched my husband plan my destruction for months. You participated. The fact that you grew a conscience at the last second doesn't erase that. He just nodded. For what it's worth, my wife, Emily, she threatened to leave me if I didn't come forward. She said, if you can watch this happen to Jane, I'll never be able to trust you not to do it to me someday. Smart woman, I said. She'd seen what I'd missed. At 3 a.m., my phone rang again. An unknown number. Jane, this is Keisha, Denzel's wife. Her voice was shaking. I just found out what they've been doing. Denzel came home drunk, bragging about it. I'm disgusted. Jane, I have recordings. Recordings? He'd come home from those Thursday nights thinking it was all hilarious. I started recording him. I have hours of him describing their plans, laughing about how you had no idea. Another ally. From the last place I'd expect. Can you send them to my lawyer? Already did, Keisha said. And Jane, I'm filing for divorce too. If he could be a part of something this cruel, what else is he capable of? At 4 a.m., George left. At the door, he turned. You know, the crazy thing is, Sean was never below your level. You would have carried him forever if he'd just been grateful instead of resentful. You loved him enough to make him an equal, even when he wasn't. That's what he never understood. I closed the door. The sun was just starting to peek over the Manhattan skyline. 4 hours of sleep would have to be enough. This is it, the boardroom showdown. Are you ready? If your heart is pounding for Jane right now, smash that like button so hard it cracks. And if you're not subscribed, you're going to miss the fallout. Don't be that person who only hears about the victory secondhand. Subscribe now, or forever hold your peace. And maybe comment on why you'd want to miss this. Ms. Hayes called as I was leaving the hotel. The emergency injunction went through. Sean is legally barred from accessing company accounts or making any operational decisions. He'll be served this morning, right before the meeting. He's going to be furious. Let him be, I said. Anger makes people sloppy. One more thing. I sent the complete evidence package, the texts, the photos, Keisha's audio files, the Shadow Company LLC, to every board member. They've had it since 5 a.m. I got to the office at 6 a.m. The building was quiet. George was already in the conference room setting up. He looked like hell. He hadn't slept either. We worked in silence, setting up stations of evidence, financials here, client testimonials there, and at the front of the room on a giant poster board, Project Gaslight. He'll try to spin this as a marital dispute, George said. Make it personal, not professional. And when he does, I said, that's when you show them the LLC filing for his competing company. Ashley arrived at 8. Half the staff is ready to testify, she said. The other half is updating their resumes. It won't go badly, I told her. Not for them. The board members arrived at 9:30. Margaret Chen, our lead investor, James Harrison, our biggest client, 2 others. They nodded at me, their faces unreadable. At 9:55, Ms. Hayes walked in and sat right next to me, a clear signal. At 10 a.m. on the dot, Sean walked in. He was wearing the Tom Ford suit I bought him. His cologne filled the room. He stopped. He saw the setup. He saw George sitting next to me. He saw Ms. Hayes. His eyes locked on George. The look that passed between them was pure hatred. George didn't flinch. Sean recovered. That slimy salesman smile slid right into place. I appreciate everyone gathering, he started, pulling out note cards. I know there's been concern about our leadership, but I want to assure you that despite my wife's current emotional state, I'll stop you right there, Sean. It was Margaret Chen. Her voice cut through the air like a knife. We have reviewed the documentation provided by Mrs. Morrison's legal counsel. Your claims about her mental state appear to be not just unfounded, but deliberately fabricated. Sean's smile flickered. Now, Margaret, I understand Jane has painted a certain picture. The picture was painted by your messages, Mr. Morrison. Another board member held up a printout. This group chat, Project Gaslight, where you strategize about documenting false evidence. These are your words, are they not? I clicked to the first slide, a screenshot of Sean's text. Keep documenting everything. We need to show a pattern of erratic behavior, even if we have to create it. The room went dead silent. Sean's face went from shock to rage to desperate calculation. Those messages are taken out of context. George clearly has his own agenda. My agenda, George spoke, his voice steady, is the truth. For 3 months, I watched you plot to destroy the woman who built this company while you contributed nothing. You were part of it, Sean screamed, completely losing it. You sat there. You encouraged me. Yes, George said. I did, and I was wrong. The difference is I'm trying to make it right. I clicked to the next slide. Financials, a color-coded chart of every major contract we'd landed in 24 months. My column was a solid wall of blue. Sean's was empty. Over the past 24 months, I began, my voice clear and strong, I have personally closed 17 major contracts, totaling $32 million in revenue. During that same period, Mr. Morrison has closed 0, while drawing a $400,000 annual salary. James Harrison, our biggest client, leaned forward. Sean, I need to be very clear. Harrison Tech has never considered you a factor in our business. Every strategic call, every innovation, it's all come from Jane. We've tolerated your presence in meetings out of respect for her, but you have never contributed a single valuable insight. The blood drained from Sean's face. His largest client had just publicly executed his entire professional existence. He just deflated. I clicked to the final slide, the Delaware LLC registration for his shadow company. Morrison Strategic Solutions. This concludes my presentation, I said. Sean's own lawyer, Rick Paulson, who'd been silent, leaned in. Sean, he whispered, we need to discuss your options, privately. It was over. Margaret Chen stood up. We'll reconvene tomorrow to formalize the transition. Mr. Morrison, I suggest you consider Ms. Hayes's buyout offer. It's generous, given this evidence. The room emptied. Sean just sat there, staring at the screen, where his own Project Gaslight text was still glowing. That night, I got a call. It was Keisha, Denzel's wife. It's worse than you know, Jane, she said. Sean wasn't just plotting against you, he was coaching them. He called it maintaining frame. I found Denzel's journal, pages of Sean's advice, how to gaslight your wife about money, how to make her doubt her own memory, how to paint her as emotional and unstable. He wasn't just destroying his own marriage, he was teaching his friends to destroy theirs. My phone buzzed. A text from Ashley. You need to see this. It was a photo from the country club bar. Sean, drunk, disheveled, ranting to anyone who would listen. An hour later, a judge's wife, Barbara, called me. I was at the club, she said. He's been there every day. Today, he was telling people he built your company and you were just a pretty face. The delusion is profound. The bartenders are calling it story time with Dom and taking bets on what he'll claim he invented next. Then, a Facebook message from Chloe, Michelle's girlfriend. I'm ending it. But you need to see what they were planning. Screenshots, detailed plans to poach our clients after the divorce, claiming I'd had a breakdown, drafted emails, timelines, even a list of our employees to recruit with notes on their vulnerabilities. Ashley, single mom, needs stability, will follow the money. Kevin, dev, desperate for promotion, easy to manipulate. They hadn't just studied me, they'd studied my team. I forwarded it all to Ms. Hayes. This wasn't a divorce anymore. This was attempted corporate theft. Her reply was instant. This changes everything. He'll have to accept whatever terms we offer. 6 months later, I was in a conference room for the final divorce signing. I'd moved into a new penthouse. The company was thriving. Sean was already there. I almost didn't recognize him. The Tom Ford suits were gone. He was wearing a wrinkled button-down from Target. He'd lost 40 pounds, maybe? The BMW was gone, replaced by a 10-year-old Honda. His hands were shaking. His new lawyer looked like he'd just passed the bar. The terms are final, Ms. Hayes said. Mrs. Morrison retains 100% of the company, the house, and all investment accounts. Mr. Morrison receives his personal belongings and his cryptocurrency wallets, valued at 0. No alimony. A 5-year non-compete. His signature was a weak scribble. He wouldn't look at me. I know you won't believe me, he whispered. But I am sorry. I looked at him. This hollow shell. You're right, I said. I don't. He left. 2 weeks later, a journalist from Forbes was in my office. She wanted the real story. I told her everything. The stakes, the patio, Project Gaslight. You didn't seek revenge, she noted. The best revenge, I said, is building something so successful that the person who tried to destroy you becomes completely irrelevant. Sean thought I was beneath his level. Now he's working a dead-end startup in Cleveland, and I'm running a $12 million company. The universe has its own sense of justice. The article's headline, How Jane Morrison Built an Empire by Divorcing Dead Weight. It hit 2 million views in a week. A month later, a letter arrived, forwarded from Cleveland. Sean's handwriting. 3 pages of, not an apology, an excuse. He talked about our success, how he'd helped, how he was a victim of circumstances. He actually suggested that once I'd cooled off, maybe we could discuss him consulting for the company. His expertise, he claimed, could still add value. I filed it in a drawer labeled closed. That year, at the company holiday party, my CFO, Margaret, stood up. My ex-husband, she said, her voice shaking, convinced me I was terrible with numbers. Me with a master's in accounting. He did it because my salary was higher than his. Then our lead developer, Kevin, spoke. My college girlfriend used to tell people I played on the computer while I was building the app that Microsoft eventually bought. The stories just poured out. We weren't just colleagues, we were survivors. 11 months later, I was at George and Emily's wedding. He'd worked his ass off to earn back my trust as a colleague. During the reception, he stood up. And his speech, it wasn't for his wife. It was for me. He told the entire room of 200 guests. 11 months ago, I participated in something shameful. I watched a friend plan to destroy his wife, and I not only stayed silent, I helped. The room was dead quiet. Jane Morrison is here tonight. She built an empire while her husband planned her downfall. But the real hero is my wife, Emily, because she told me, if you can watch that happen to her, how do I know you won't do it to me? I raised my glass, an apology I didn't know I needed. A few weeks after that, I was in Whole Foods, and I saw him. Sean, standing in the pasta aisle, comparing prices on generic brand spaghetti. His Target suit was frayed. The wedding ring was gone. Our eyes met. He started to move toward me, his mouth open like he wanted to speak. And I just looked at him. Not with anger, not with hatred, with nothing. Complete indifference. I looked through him like he was glass and went back to picking out olive oil. He just stopped. He abandoned his cart right there in the aisle and practically ran out of the store. I kept shopping. I was hosting a dinner party that weekend for the investors in my second company, a venture Sean would only read about in the business journals he could no longer afford. She saw him in Whole Foods. And the indifference. That's real power. She didn't just win, she transcended. If you love a story where the hero gets the ultimate ice-cold justice, you've found your home. Hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. It's the only way to guarantee you never miss a story this good. And for those that are still watching who aren't subscribed, I don't get it. Are you Sean's secret account? Go on, tell us in the comments why you refuse to join the family. We'll read every single one.